Welcome to our Week 6 KK Collision Football Show, celebrating 50 years of Ayersville football tonight. We have a full house, Coach Strock. This is great.
Well, it's special. It's special, and my favorite part, Lynn, before we go any further, is seeing the former players and former assistant coaches come in and greet each other, and it's like time standing still here tonight, and it's hard to believe it's been 50 years, so I'm just privileged to be part of it, and looking forward to, a couple weeks ago, we were fortunate to have St. Francis and Coach Dick Cromwell here. We're kind of reminiscing about the past. And
goes back, yeah.
Yeah, it's special. So
we're going to go by era here. We got some of the early guys. We got some 80s guys. We got some 90s guys. We even have some 2000-ish guys in here as well. And Craig McCord, his son Jonathon McCord, Don Hammersmith, and Bill Ondrus up here first with us with our first segment. Tori Strock, Lynn Grawl, looking forward to this, presented by KK Collision. First of all, guys, thank you for doing this, and thank you all you guys for stopping out tonight. We're looking...
Hey, nothing better than this, I'm going to tell you that.
No.
No. This is fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Don Hammersmith and John McCord, both former players for the Pilots.
Yeah.
Mr. Hammersmith, what year did you graduate, and what years did you play?
I was on the 80 football team, but graduated in 81.
Okay.
Graduated in 97.
Okay. Yep. Started this in 74, Coach McCord.
Yes.
Tell me about your path to get to Ayersville. How did you get to Ayersville, first of all?
Oh, boy. Well, out of college, I had a year of coaching at Ashland Crestview High School. I got an opportunity to go back to my hometown of London, Ohio, and work with my former coach, Jim Bolus, for 4 years. And that was a fantastic move. He's a Hall of Fame coach, and learned the ropes really from him. And he's the one who pushed me to start going to clinics. He pushed me to someday want to become a head coach. He was a mentor. He was my coach, but also became a mentor for me. And then when he retired, I found out through actually one of my former, believe it or not, babysitters lived in Defiance. Said, hey, they're starting a football program out at Ayersville. And so I contacted the superintendent, Russ Luthold, and drove up here for an interview. And then my coach called him, and I think that really had a lot to do with me getting the job, to be honest with you. But I was excited about the opportunity to start a program to teach guys that never knew how to play the game. I mean, they had to learn how to put on the equipment. I mean, they had the whole 9 yards. I mean, and that was really the best part of it, was working with these guys, these young guys, Brad and Mark, Chuck and over here, learning to actually put their equipment on, because, this is funny. They always thought the girdle pads, the pad went in the front, if you think back the old days. Seriously.
Yeah.
The
tail pad.
Put a helmet on or fit a mouthpiece or and everything. So, but no, that's how I got here, had the opportunity to drive up for an interview, and I remember Moose walking me all around, introduced me to the boosters and board members, and and that's kind of how I got to Ayersville. And I honestly never thought it'd be 50 years down the road I'd be back here, but I am.
How old were you, Coach, when you were named head coach?
Let's see. What would that be, 5 years out of college, so he's 26.
Did you feel like you were ready for it?
No. No. But at least I will say the big thing is they didn't just jump into a varsity schedule. That's the best thing that the administration did. We had a freshman schedule of 4 games. 75, we had a JV schedule of 6, and then we went to varsity. And I thought, actually, when we went to that first varsity year, we had a pretty good JV year, really pretty good. But we kind of, it was baptism by fire in 76. But that was the best thing they did, because it gave us an opportunity to lay the foundation, to get things going. And we had 4 seniors that were able to play our JV year, and they're going to be honored, Friday night with the big deal, going to be honorary captains. But, Mark played on the 76 team. He was a quarterback. But I have so much respect for that group of guys foundation. Excuse me.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. While Coach collects himself here, I love the emotion, and it's awesome. It's genuine. Coach Ondrus, tell us, your name's synonymous with Ayersville. You say Bill Ondrus. Everybody knows Bill Ondrus at Ayersville.
Yeah. I don't know if that's good or not. I'll tell you, I'll change. I got there in '80. Mr. Hammersmith here was a senior. Was such a great thing. It was, I don't know, these guys will throw out names. Craig was the coach, and, you know, I was 21.
And where'd you come from, Coach?
I came from my mom originally.
That was a dumb question.
So anyway, I grew up on the east side. Sweeter, went to Cardinal Stritch, played football at Defiance College, and right after I graduated, I went to Ayersville. It was kind of neat. Looked up, you know, Craig wasn't 26, he was in his early 30s at that time. Thought, wow, what a fine young man. You know, he's going to lead. And then I'd tell you about a story to go down when he talked about going to clinics. He took us down to see, and we stayed at his friend's Butch's house. And I'm going to leave it at that. I turned the corner on how I looked at Craig after that. Butch was a heck of a fine young man. Learned a lot from that about Craig McCord. But it was a great relationship. Had a great time. Got to see a lot of people, and I had 20 years of Ayersville football. What a great time.
Coach McCord, do you remember how many guys you had on your very first JV roster, approximately?
I'm going to say in the 30s. It was in the 30s, maybe even low 40s. We had really a good number. We really did. And I think it's because the guys wanted to play football. You know, Ayersville was known for a basketball school, well-deserved.
Sure.
A couple state championships. In fact, I was told many times that football will never go to Ayersville. You know, seriously, that's true. But we had it in the low 40s, and but they wanted to be part of something that they couldn't do. There were other sports that they could participate in, and I think that's why the boosters went to the board and say, "Hey, this will give an opportunity for more students to participate in, in interscholastic athletics." But we had really a good number, and over the years, we maintained in the 40s. I always felt if I could get 10 a year, we'd be 40, and anything above that would be plus. And we had some plus years in the 40s. Coach Delano's class was the largest, like 60. Yeah. I think we had 61 in his class, Wow. So, that's how we started. Yeah.
Was there a football field there when you got there?
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a football field, but no practice field. I don't know if you know Ayersville, you had the bus barn, and you had the tennis court, and there was a little square land between the lighted baseball field and the bus barn where we had to practice. That's all we had. If we wanted to pass the ball or whatever, kicking game, we had to go over in the outfield of the baseball field to practice. But we had a little area where we built our own chutes, and a lot of ants over there. I will say that. Right? Yeah. Marty Winterhold, one of our players, sat down in some ants, and you know how those red biting ants. But anyway, we had a very limited practice space, but we made do with what we had. We had to, because we had no sleds, nothing. That's all we had. But eventually, over the years, things expanded, and we got our own practice field and stuff like that. But those guys will tell you, it wasn't very big, was it? Oh, no. Pretty small area.
Who were your original assistant coaches, Coach McCord?
Dave Weldy. It was just Dave Weldy and me when we began. That was it, just the two of us. And then Lou King came on board, okay? And a Hicksville guy, and he was an elementary teacher in Ayersville. He came on board, and then Bill came on board. And that was the first four, really. Yeah.
Okay. Coach Hammersmith, do you remember those early days? Were you in the area at that time?
Yeah. I remember some of them, the older guys. Get beat up and go at it, but it was a lot of fun. It really was.
Except those cross countries, is that correct?
Yeah. Cross countries were not any fun, but
You kept me a half hour late for practice every time. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, every Monday. That was every Monday, yeah.
Coach McCord, when you rolled into Ayersville as a young coach, did you have your mind made up, this is what I want to do offensively? I know there weren't a million schemes out there, but
Yeah.
this is what I want to do offensively,
Yeah.
this is what I want to do defensively, or did you want to kind of wait and see the hand you've been dealt?
It was a hand-me-down from Coach Bolus at London. We were going to run the power eye because that was the thing in the day. That's what I knew the best. And we were going to do that, and we were going to trap. We were going to run a toss sweep. We had a little counter play, and we had about 4 running plays. That was it. But that's what I had in mind. And defensively, we wanted the 52 slant angle defense and inverted the secondary, and we stayed that for years and years and years and years. Over the course, I saw so many coaches wanted to go with a flavor of the day. And I think one of the reasons we were successful is we continued to do what we knew best as coaches, and also the players believed in it because they knew we believed in it, and they executed so well. We didn't do anything fancy. Everybody knew we were going to run the trap or the toss sweep. We did have the option down the road, but everybody knew what we were going to do, but I think we out-executed them. And then we were in better shape than they were, to be honest with you. We won a lot of games in the second half. But yes, I had what we were going to do. It was going to be very simplistic because that's what I knew. I wasn't going to come in and try to coach something, teach something I didn't know anything about.
When did the program, do you feel, really take off for you, Coach McCord?
We made a trip down to London, Ohio. Did we do that in '77? I'm not sure when we made it. We went, no, after you, so that would have been like
79.
maybe 70. We made 2 trips to London, Ohio, my hometown. They were very gracious to scrimmage us because they were the big powerhouse and we were just a little mighty mite. And we were able to spend the night at the players' homes. They put us up, the parents. Beefy was part of that group. But I think that's really when it took off because it made us tougher to go against somebody bigger that would hit you, that type deal. And I think it kind of built this fire under them that that's what we want to be. But the 2 years that we went to London to scrimmage, I think that's when it really took off from there. And, that's what I would say, yeah.
John, I would like you to touch on just for a minute what it was like, because as a child growing up, all you knew was Ayersville football. I mean, you were born into it. Just in a nutshell, I mean, you could probably talk about it for hours, but in a nutshell, what was day in and day out like being Craig McCord's son growing up at Ayersville?
And what year were you born?
78.
78.
Okay.
Blizzard year.
Oh, yeah, true. Well, that's a tough question. I mean, he's a very humble man. I remember as a child, just remember him working day in and day out at the table, working on his X's and O's, being in the locker room with all these gentlemen, pretty much, especially these coaches. And I don't know if I can fully answer that question, but I just want to, just how gracious and how humbled and how great these individuals are as young men and as coaches. And I just think as a player under this man and then as a son under this man, I want to thank him as a son and as a player. I think this 50 years means a lot to him and to all these people and all the coaches, the community, and these coaches, believe it or not, mean a lot to all these we're young individuals, I should say. But that tradition they had at Ayersville and that Coach McCord started, it's one of the most unique things I've experienced and witnessed as a young individual and as I grew and was lucky enough to coach under him for a couple of years. I've taken a lot from him, from all these coaches, and I'm just thankful I had a little part.
It didn't take long for him to start coming out to the practice field either. Pinhead, right, Willie? Yeah, he got a nickname of Pinhead. And it didn't take him long to come out and start being part of the team. Yeah.
John, you learned some things when you're a youngster around the older guys. I was a water boy for Rex Lindgren, and I learned some interesting stuff, you know?
Absolutely.
And
some choice words, some adult conversation here or there.
But I think it makes you more well-rounded, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. I do think, I will say this, when Ayersville got rolling, in hindsight and just looking back, with all the coaches he had, I thought they worked so well together. I thought with old Coach McCord being in charge, and I thought they just had a good mix, a good mix of, like Coach Ondrus, just having a good time, teaching the fundamentals. Coach McCord, keeping everything straight and narrow, but it was a good mix of everything. They had fun, they learned, and they worked hard.
Who were some of your idols when you were a young buck, growing up there in the 80s?
Denny Martin's in here. I remember him playing, all these guys. The Schlachters were, watching them run in so many games, the LCC game, Kurt Partee making that touchdown. I looked up to so many of them, and then just the tradition, the respect they had for the coaches, the will they would give every Friday night for. It wasn't just about them, it was about the program, the people that played before them, the tradition at Ayersville High School.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that, and Bill and I touch on it often, is that we let the coaches coach. I wasn't a micromanager where I was going around telling them to do this or that. I had trusted them that they could coach their position. And they developed a relationship with their players and so on, and that's what they did. I had great faith in all the coaches we had over the years, and I let them coach.
Thank you.
They did. They were great. They were great.
I'm serious.
Great teachers of the game.
There's a lot of people that don't do that, and you did it, and everybody who was helping you at the time, the central focus was to do it right and do the best for the kids. And you put Ayersville in front of everything when it came to coaching. It was pretty cool stuff.
One of the things I'll say, and I want to insert this, I think I've probably talked to Lynn about it. I was telling Coach McCord about this before we started, but when I coached at Leipzig High School in the early 2000s, and we're looking at who we could scrimmage, I wanted to scrimmage a Craig McCord coached Ayersville team because, I had some family history there with my cousins Don and Marv Andrews on that 86 team, and so I wanted to learn from him and scrimmage against him, and so we're scrimmaging at Ayersville, and we ran trap and power and things like that, and there's Coach McCord in the mix behind their middle linebacker, trying to make sure, and he kept calling the kid Slimer. I got to believe the kid's last name was Slimer, and
James Lime.
he wasn't reading his guard, when we run trap or whatever, and Coach McCord's in there. I'm thinking, man, he's going to get run over in there. But by the end of the scrimmage, he was reading his guard, and I said, man, oh man, that guy coaches the right way, because he wasn't going to let that scrimmage end without that young man reading his guard. So I learned a lot, Coach. I appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Why did you guys, as coaches, especially Coach Hammersmith, Coach Ondrus, why did you guys stick around for so long and coach with Coach McCord and stay with the program?
I just had a great time. I had a good community, a lot of good people, and like I said, he let you coach, and instead of telling you micromanaging and saying this and that, you got to do your thing, and hopefully, you could inspire kids, and I don't know if that at that time that was my goal. My goal was for Ayersville to win, I think, and it was just fun because we had a lot of laughs while we did it. Had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
I think for me, I played a couple years at Wilmington College and had a chance to come back and be a part. He asked me to be part of the staff. It was just such a, an honor to get back to your home school and be able to contribute to what, to the tradition, to really just be a part of that Ayersville football again. And he's right. He let us do, here I am, I'm 24, 25 years old, and he's like, here, take your defensive line and do what you got to do. And I would say, like with Bill, we were talking, so many good times in practice, you kind of forget about, I don't want to say forget about games, but we had such fun, and really, these guys, they're very competitive, so that made life a little easier. When they're competitive, they get them to do things.
Right, just like Buck, huh, Rob?
Buck, yeah.
My brother still got that on cassette somewhere. At least he did.
There's some wrong stuff in it. It's probably wrong.
You guys got in '85, you won your first GMC championship, and then you went on that 10-year run.
Yeah.
What got you there, and how did you stay there for so many years? You don't see that anymore with high school programs.
Initially, Fairview and Edgerton had really the best programs in the early 80s. And I know Fairview came over to Ayersville, and if their JV squad, and I don't know, just trounced our butt and just kept running up the score. And I said, well, turnaround is pretty, payback is pretty good. Once we beat Fairview, that got us over one hump. The next hump we had to clear was Edgerton. And we beat Edgerton in '85. That team was pretty tight. They lost the first game to Macomb and against Jerry Mapes and that.
Went on to win the state championship.
Yeah, they had won the state championship
in '83. '83, yes.
Yeah.
Did they win in '85?
Yeah.
No.
No. But beating Edgerton then in '85 gave us our first GMC victory.
Wasn't there a long?
Denny was a quarterback, and that was huge. And of course, talk about special teams.
I'm going to say, wasn't there a kickoff in that?
Yeah, John Lewis returned a kickoff for a touchdown towards the end of the game. We got behind and we just ran a cross wedge, which we've run for years, and it just opened up and he ran the touchdown and he celebrated in the end zone. We didn't know how to celebrate. We got a penalty for celebration, but hey, it was a game winner, that's all I know. And how did we keep it going? Because I think that nobody wanted to be that team to lose it. I think, and we knew we had a great mix coming back, in '86. '86, we graduated 17 seniors, but '87, I think, was one of our better coaching years. We had a lot of kids that were still wet behind the ear, but yet they didn't want to be that team to lose. They wanted to keep that tradition going, and I think that's the big. They wanted to keep that tradition going of winning the GMC. And I don't know, we won it 10 years in a row. And, we're very fortunate. But again, we had great players. We had tremendous support in the community. I'm going to tell you, our community was so fantastic. I can remember going to away games, and our fans were in the ticket line, a quarter of a mile back a lot of times, waiting to get into the gate. We had tremendous fans and tremendous parental support, and that just kept us going. It just was a big family deal.
Coach, did the junior high, like 7th and 8th grade football program, did that start at the same time?
Yes, it got initiated at the same time. And I would say, if you look back over the years, our junior high didn't win a lot of games. I'm going to be honest with you. All I wanted them to do was be able to, teach them to block and tackle, have fun, because I wanted them to come out as freshmen. If they came out in freshmen, then we can teach them the rest. And that, I didn't care if they won a game. I let them do what they wanted to do. So just teach them the basic fundamentals of the game. Let them have some fun. And then we'll get them as freshmen, we'll coach them from there. Yes.
Coach Hammersmith, Coach Ondrus, touch on that 10-year run as Green Meadows Conference champions and a lot of playoff wins in there too. What was the reason behind all that success from an assistant coaching perspective?
I look back and I will say they were coachable. The players were coachable, you know. I can't tell you how many times they weaved in and out of tires, you know, doing the things that I know it's boring, but they did it. And I think it was that fundamental aspect of it, the mental toughness that they had. Bill's inspirational speeches before the game, it made a big difference. And so, but yeah, I think that whole, again, it goes back to tradition. Nobody wanted to be that first one, you know, and we had just great people there. Great support.
Really, not only the kids in the community, but there's a lot of continuity within the system at the time. Coaches remain pretty much the same, maybe one or two would be, but it was really good that everybody was on the same page the whole time. Same system, like he said, it might not have worked at the junior high, but by the time they got to the high school, they were taught where they should be, and everybody did the right thing at the time. You know, they say, oh, we had better talent. You said that 86 team, I'm just saying some of the linemen we had were 135 pounds, but they got there, and the backs knew how to read their block, because we were going to run a trap and we were going to run a sweep, and they knew how to do it. You get that 135-pound back on somebody, they can make guard, they could make a back and make a move, and they did. So it was kind of neat. A lot of good people believed.
Go ahead, I can see your head spinning here, Coach.
Well, Coach McCord, if you were to coach today, as a head coach, would you have a ground-based attack, the trap, the sweep, the counter, or would you do what these guys are doing now?
Honestly, I don't like the open concept. I guess I grew up in the Woody and Bo generation. And Woody always said when you pass, two things aren't good. It's either intercept it or you drop it, you know. So I guess I look at those percentages. And I'm not saying we certainly would pass more than we did. And I think towards the end of my 30 years, we did pass more. But again, I would say it would be ground-based. Yeah.
Love it.
We passed a lot more than Liberty Center does.
I believe that.
Yeah, so, you know, and again,
we threw it three times.
If it works, I guess if it works, why change it? That's the way I look at it, you know? If the kids can execute it, why change just to change, so.
I know I'm putting you, go ahead, you have something?
Well, I was just going to say, we talked to a lot of coaches. We've been very fortunate, and I was going to ask you guys as assistant coaches, I know you said Coach didn't micromanage, he let you guys coach. What was your favorite part of coaching? Because a lot of the older coaches we talk about actually say practice was their favorite part, even more so than games and stuff. Was there a certain element that you enjoyed more than others? Practice, game, post-game?
Post-game blew it away. But no, practice, we were talking the way down, the things you remember. I can't remember a full game. You know, I remember Denny running 600 miles on that waggle right that went left and scored at the state championship. But I don't remember the games, but I will tell you a lot of different things at practice or different things like that. Or, in the locker room, at the post game, that stuff, and lots of fun. At the coaches' meetings, we had a lot of good times, a lot of camaraderie.
Yeah.
And I do think you had to have fun. It's a hard game. It's a tough game. You had to have fun. And so, joke day or, he would look at me and what are you doing over there? Or we all be laughing, somebody be taking a joke or something like that. But yeah, you had to have fun. And I think that's, like he said, there's a few games, but man, you remember more about practices and stuff like that.
Jonathon, give me some of your memories.
Like you said earlier, I could be here a long time discussing some of those. I definitely remember a lot of those big games. I mean, LCC, as I got older, it was the biggest one I remember. Some of the close games when I played, but I think like Coach Ondrus and these other coaches said, it's kind of those memories you made in the locker room together at practice. I remember these coaches joking a lot in the locker rooms after the players in the locker rooms doing their own thing, and me as a kid kind of enjoying both aspects. Sitting there listening to the coaches, and I'd run into the locker room and listen to what they said, so I could kind of play both ends, and I could go whisper to them, hey, they're talking about you in there. So, I could maybe get a free pop or something from my dad if I could, but I just think they had a lot of fun. These kids, through those years, they were adults to me when I was little, and then as I coached, but I mean, they did so much for that program, for those that came before them, for Coach McCord, who was coaching at the time, and they had fun. They had fun and lots of things we can't talk about, and did a lot of good memories together. So
I got kicked in the butt twice.
Oh, that's a great
Remember that? That's the greatest story ever.
Greatest story ever.
So we're working on PAT, teaching PAT, so I'm up in the line, working with the line. And of course,
It was Shane Potter was our kicker.
so I'm up working with the line, and Shane's back there kicking, and I get kicked right in the back end, So I wasn't too happy, but
No, and they were all
they told me to
laughing.
get out of there. I said, I'll be all right. So
Oh, no.
next one, I got kicked again.
He sent him to the fence because they were laughing at him. Welcome back. They're going to do it again. And he gets something. What are you doing, Craig? Shane
So-
kicks him right in the rear end again.
Those are things of practice that you remember, you know what I'm saying? That's the good stuff.
Yeah.
That's the good stuff.
It was a great one.
Any games, you played in the state championship. Jonathon talked about the 89 LCC game. Games, I know I'm putting you on the spot here. Any of them stand out for you that are still special to you guys to this day?
Oh, yeah, I look back at several special games. I think when we beat Hicksville for our very first victory, it was pretty special. When we won our first GMC championship in '85. Beating Mogador before we got to the state finals was pretty special. Coach O did a big cartwheel on the field. After that, that's pretty funny. And Denny and Chris went berserk out there. But, and then in the state finals, it was a great comeback, really, great comeback. And again, hindsight's 20/20. And people have always asked, why didn't you go for 2 to put us up by 7? Well, I had faith in our defense at the time because they were playing so well. But hats goes off to Newark Catholic because they were able to drive down the field and score. But again, back in those days, you couldn't stop the clock. You had to throw it out of bounds. We put a Hail Mary up, really, completed it to about the 50-yard line, but we couldn't spike the ball. By the time we got up and had to throw it out of bounds, the clock ran out. So we were hoping maybe for one more play, but, that's special. When we beat LCC, that was a pretty big game. I don't think people gave us a lot of chance to win. It was all called the Plow Horses against the Stallions, and they had the Stallions, there's no doubt about that. But I think we out-executed them down at the end, and that was a big game. My very last game, pretty special.
Assistant coaches, any games for you that stuck out in your coaching careers or even your playing days, Mr. Hammersmith?
Well, my senior year, we beat Holgate 2-0. We were not an offensive guru at the time, but it was more, you just remember that, you know, how hard that was to do, you know. And I would agree with Craig on especially the first GMC championship. That was just special. Mogador obviously was special. State championship, that was really cool for maybe not, you know, a whole different reason than just football. But yeah, those are the things it's hard to remember some of the games. You get involved and you're coaching and you're doing those, it runs past you pretty quickly.
I'd say the same thing, what they were saying, Mogador, all those good games, but probably the one that I remember that kind of set the tone was when we beat SG in Fairview in '85. That was the first time we beat Fairview and then ended up winning the GMC. Kind of had a good time after that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was big, no doubt. I think it was pretty hot that night, if I remember.
Sure.
Yeah,
It got cooled down later.
I do remember finishing this '77 season as a famous snowball over at Holgate. And back then you didn't have all the equipment. So guys, you know, I told, hey, wear pantyhose. You know, the backs couldn't wear gloves. I said, linemen wear gloves. The dads even came down and lit a fire on the sidelines in an old trash barrel. Anything to keep warm, you know, and, you know, the field was covered. The guys were shoveling the lines so you could see the lines. Where's Chuck? John Whiteford returned the second half kickoff for a touchdown. This guy over here caught the 2-point conversion on a fire call for us to win the game. But I remember the snowball, pretty bad, right? Pretty bad.
My wife's still.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff, yeah. A lot of memories. Memories. Like I said, I've got all the films. So I can go back and look through all the films and write stuff down. And what a great time for me to just do that and relax and remember this player and that player and this play and that game and the famous speech at Sonora. So I remember those things.
What year was that, Coach McCord?
That would have been like 90, I think.
89.
Yeah, 90 over at Sonora, I think, yeah. That was a pretty big game. Yeah, pretty rough game, but again, we pretty much out-executed them and Coach O got us motivated before that. I'm just saying he got us motivated. He did. It was the greatest pregame speech I ever heard in my life.
Wow.
That's true. That's a fact.
I was spitting and salivating.
Guys.
More than usual.
Yeah. It's because I'm colorblind and can't see green. That's the real reason.
I just have one more thing, Coach. I like to ask coaches, you mentioned Fairview and Edgerton and those guys. Who were some of the top coaches at the time in the area that were just hard to beat because you knew you weren't going to outsmart them, you just had to out-execute them?
Well, Ken Whalen at Fairview was a pretty good coach. I never beat him. He came back 1 year as an interim coach. That's the only time we beat him. I think you were playing. He was a coach who couldn't beat him. Thompson at Edgerton was very good, very, very good. We had a hard time beating him too, but once we beat him, then we were able to go on. Lehman Saylor, way back in the early days at Wayne Trace, was a very quality coach. The coach at Hicksville, what was his name? The very first, when we played Hicksville the very first time in '75, I have so much respect for him because it was like, I don't know, 30, 40 something at halftime, and he could have really demolished our program. I mean, demolished it. But he called off the dogs. And even every time I met him, I always told him I respect that he did that. Because I think that, even though we didn't win anything, that saved our program. Because I think it would have demolished, really, because we were fragile. We were just beginning, really. But those are some of the early coaches, I think. I talk about Bob Bolin, how he was moved around different places. We had some good dandy games at Antwerp when he played, The clock ran continuously one game down there in the first half. But then, we've those are some, Ken Whalen, Thompson, Lehman, Saylor, those are some of the coaches that were very good back in the day. Really, really very, very good.
Yeah. Last thing for you, Coach. You're the architect of this whole thing. 50 years later, sum it up for us. How did we get here?
That's tough. I just started it, I was only there 30 years. Some of these guys were here in the last 20. I was only there at the beginning. But 50 years, I tell my wife, Patty, many times, I never thought I'd be around 50 years down the road, But great experience. I would do it all over again.
Take us through Friday night and what is planned before the game, afterwards, for maybe some of the former players that are listening.
Well, we always, before the game, we always went out in full pads. We did our stretching. We had a regular pregame routine. Back then, the captain of coin tosses right just before the game, so you didn't really know. We'd go back into the locker room and have a little quiet time, and we had a team prayer.
They could all say it right now, too.
That I stole from a coach from Alabama, because he always carried it in his wallet.
Yep.
And we've said that for many, many years. And Coach Mickey brought it back, I will say that, since he's been hired. And we're going to get an opportunity Friday to do it together.
Yep.
We're excited about that.
Yeah. What time is the festivities start on Friday for maybe those that are listening?
Well, there's going to be a tailgate, I think about 4:15 at 4 o'clock over at Limber's Barn. All are welcome. We're going to come back to this field about 6 o'clock, 6:15, and meet the team and have a team prayer and form a tunnel for them. I'm going to be there a little early because the coin toss is at 6:30, so I want to be there when those first seniors are there, be there with them. And then at halftime, we're going to have all the players, coaches in it once in a while on the track that's there. There'll be a little recognition. And then afterwards, we'll go back to Numbers Barn and party and tell a lot of stories.
Outstanding.
Bill, are you going to take part in that?
There's a good chance.
There's a good chance.
We'll know the odds on FanDuel later.
Thank you guys so much. We're going to get some of the early guys and some of the other eras up here as well.
I get it away before I'm on.
KK Collision is a leader in the auto repair industry that has been servicing Northwest Ohio's auto needs for over 27 years. We offer a fast and reliable repair option that stands above the competition. When your vehicle enters our facility, you can be assured that you have chosen the most technologically advanced repair facility in the area. KK Collision is an automotive body and mechanical shop, as well as both a light and heavy-duty towing service located in Liberty Center. Our towing services cover Northwest Ohio and the surrounding area 24 hours a day. Are you in need of a repair estimate? Visit us anytime during business hours for a free estimate at T556 Ohio 109 on the north side of Liberty Center, or call 888-533-7801 or visit our website at kkcollision.com. Welcome back to our Week 6 KK Collision Football Show, celebrating 50 years of Ayersville football. Going to bring up some of the early guys from the 70s, Mark Reynolds and Chuck Florence now joining us. Guys, thanks so much for stopping out here tonight. Tell us your playing years and what year you graduated at Ayersville.
Okay, the playing years, I started, Coach McCord did give the history there when he came there. I think it was 74 he came. And the boosters were tremendous about getting the football program there. I remember a lot of the dads coming to the practices and just watching us have practice out there. And they made us do a season of flag football, and we could still be in other sports, because my freshman year I ran cross country also. And then we had the freshman schedule or whatever, and then the JV year, which was the first seniors there. But the first varsity season, I was the quarterback that year, and that was 76,
Okay.
fall 76.
Chuck, give us your history.
I was there the same amount of time Mark was. I pretty much carried his bag the first year. The second year, I had done something that all these guys are going to laugh about, but I'm kind of known as the person that always gets hurt doing something stupid. I was at Philmont, New Mexico, fell off a cliff, broke my elbow, so I had to miss my sophomore year. And then I played my junior and senior year, and I graduated in 78, 77 football.
Okay.
So when you were a little bit younger, before the program was established, did you hear rumors or rumblings that football may be on the horizon at Ayersville, or did it come as a shock to you? Hey, we're going to have a football team.
No, we were pretty much in tune, just listened to the boosters' vibe on, hey, we might be getting football, and is it going to work or isn't it going to work? It went around a number of years before it came to fruition there.
Yeah, it actually started, I think, in 72, because my dad was one of the first ones that donated money, along with Marv Lemaster and Mr. Diamond and all of them. All of them got together to donate the first initial funds, and I think we ended up with, I think it was somewhere around $15,000 to start the program.
Wow.
And, Coach was right. He had to take us all the way through learning how to put the stuff on. Mark and I will never forget, we talked about it over there when these guys were talking about, had to show them how to put gear on. Everybody knows the old famous girdle pad, where the girdle pad goes in the back. One of my teammates thought it went in the front. I'll never forget it. He walked up to Coach McCord, he goes, I don't know if this thing really fits or not. I thought he was going to fall off the swimming pool deck.
I think he asked for a different size.
That's true. Yeah, he had it on backwards. And to this day, I don't know how Coach ended up telling him it was on backwards, because he had tears running from everywhere. And this guy was a card, but I tell you what, he was one of the best football players I ever played with.
Yeah.
And Mark was probably the best athlete I ever played with.
I don't know about that.
I do. I think very highly of him, and just, like Coach talked about the first four. Well, in my grade, we labeled them the Four Horsemen, because you have to look, through the program and how the program got started in that. I look at that first group of seniors, they taught us character, integrity. Because let's face it, you got four seniors that they get to play a freshman schedule. They don't get to play a true varsity game. They get to play a freshman schedule. So they taught you how to tackle, how to do things the right way, knowing that they're not going to get any of the glory of it. And then you look at the seniors the following year, I look at them, and they showed me how to be persistent. They had the same situation. The only difference was they played 6 or 7 JV games. And then you get to Mark's senior year, and I apologize to him to this day, because we should have had our first win Mark's senior year, but I dropped the winning touchdown pass in the end zone at the Tenor game. Well, at the end of the game, I look at these guys as the true leaders of the program. Because the game's over with, our last game of the year. I'm thinking Mark's walking over next to you, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I get another hit now. I think Mark's gonna come over and just, lambaste me something, I hit you right between the 8 and the 1, why the heck can't you catch it? He put his arm around me and said, hey, Chuck, he says, look at it this way, we did not lose, we tied 0-0. We had a touchdown called back because we were celebrating and somebody's mouthpiece fell out. So they called it back for not having the gear all in place the way you have to do it.
That was the Antwerp game.
Right. And, then you turn around and, he looks at me and says, hey, look, we worked really hard for these last 4 games. And the only reason I played is because our normal tight end blew an ACL through a walkthrough. So they insert next guy up. That was coach's philosophy. So they put me into the game, and Mark hit me right between the 8 and the 1. I thought, okay, we had spent 3 weeks, Chuck, you got to catch it here, you can't catch it on your chest. Well, you got John Elway here that, you're 3 feet away, and you still got a 90-mile-an-hour fastball coming at you. I let it come into my chest and just thought I could cradle it. Mark told me before the play, he goes, Chuck, they know that you're going to be going to the pylon, because that's where I was supposed to go. He says, cut it back. He says, cut back into the goalpost. I did exactly what he told me, left the Tenora guy going that way, I cut back in, and Mark hit me, and I dropped it. But he came up and he said, hey, look, he says, we didn't lose. We didn't win, but we didn't lose. But what I really want you to do is work this summer on your hands and what we did for the last 3 weeks and go out and get your first win next year, which was my senior year. Mm-hmm. And then we went out and beat Hicksville 10-0 in that first game, and I caught the pass that got us the first down on the 2-yard line, and then Eddie Earl took it in 3 plays later and got the first score. And then I also caught the pass that got Dave Greer to the point where he could kick the field goal. So, these guys taught us leadership.
Yeah.
And it just went from there. I mean, we ended up 7-3 my senior year. We were known as the Cinderella team, is what they put us through in the newspaper and everything. And I do remember the Holgate game. I mean, 6 inches of snow. Everybody else on the team gets to wear gloves and that, so I asked Coach, after I had to run back into the locker room to get my shoulder pads, because I forgot those, or I think they were kind of important to have that game. And I said, you're seriously telling me? I said, you throw the ball 3 times a game, and I'm playing tight end, and you're telling me I got to put my hands up? Yeah, because you're a receiver, somebody's going to be touching the ball, so yeah, you can't wear gloves. He was right. It was freezing out there. But, I caught a touchdown pass in that game. I caught the 2-point conversion in that game. And we threw one other time. Wow. But it's like he said, he would flat out tell other coaches, I'll give you my playbook. I'll tell you the play I'm going to run. You outperform us, and you can stop us. They couldn't outperform us that year.
Yeah. Did you guys play football on the playground before football came to Ayersville, or was it basketball and other sports at the time?
I played 3 sports myself, but back in the day, we always played football on Sundays at Zion's Lutheran Church open lot.
Okay.
I graduated in 77, so I was playing against kids 74, 75, and 76. Rick Klein and the Rummel Boys and people like that. But somebody always ended up with a bloody nose. I always remember that. But it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you play football, your class, elementary and all that, Chuck?
We played a lot of football and that out on the playground and that. When you got to organized sports, and Coach will definitely tell you that, and I'm kind of ashamed of the way I was until he got hold of me and I found out what true cross-country courses were. Running those things in August in full pads, I always had a problem. I could never keep this shut. And I don't know why. I remember going out my 8th grade year for basketball. And Coach Stevens told me before we went out, he goes, Chuck, he goes, you're going to make the team. Do what I ask you to do and you'll be fine. I said, okay, great. Well, first practice, we're doing leg lifts. I think we're doing it for like 4.5 minutes or something. It was probably about 4.5 seconds. And he goes, Chuck, he goes, you got to keep your legs up. I said, Coach, if you want me to keep my legs up, get down here with me and do them. Well, I found out real quick because that was the year that he came. And Coach Stevens went over and told me, he said, I had to cut Chuck. And Coach McCord goes, well, why? He goes, that kid just does not know how to keep that mouth shut. But let me tell you, my freshman year, I learned real quick how to keep that mouth shut because I think I ran like 45 cross-country runs, which were like 3.5 miles back then in full pads in August, and I think that was the first week. So I learned real quick, plus with Mark and these guys as leaders, they taught us real quick that, look, this is a serious game, let's everybody get together. And if nothing else, it was a great teaching for all of us because we took what we learned on the football field and then took it out into the world and became very successful in the world.
Yeah.
And without football net, I don't think we would have been there.
What was your initial reaction when Coach McCord came and he started coaching you guys? What was your perspective of him?
I can still remember him being at a table in the hallway in front of what we had in the weight room back then was the old universal equipment, no free weights at all. And, all right, you guys get here and you sign your name on this piece of paper and what position you might want to play. I can remember that.
And you picked quarterback?
Yes. And it was, he was, with his smile and how personable he was to all the players, I think that was a big key.
Just the idea of, seeing Coach sitting there, listening to him. All you had to do was listen to what the man said, and you wanted to run through a brick wall for him. And I guarantee, Mark still looks like he could play today. I look like I might be a great manager. But, if you really go back and you talk to some of the older generation, we still try to run through a wall for the man. I mean, that's just how much he meant to us as young men. He was at my wedding.
Mine too.
Been there for when all 3 of my kids were born. He was one of the first phone calls I got. It's just, that tells you what the program is. He is definitely family first. And I can't thank him enough for what he did.
After I graduated, I followed the team for numbers of years, and I saw a big improvement the second year. We didn't get the first victory my senior year. We had a tie with Tenor, 0-0, but I can remember he took the ball out of Mark Vogel's hands and said, Mark, you're not going to be running the ball, because he had a habit of fumbling. And then the other big key is John Whiteford. John had a habit of fumbling, but he was carrying the ball wrong. You remember that? And boy, after that, you wouldn't think John Whiteford was a back, but he was a heck of a back that year.
What do you guys remember about practices? We hear some horror stories from practices from the early years. Does anything stand out aside from the cross-country runs? Some hamburger drills, banging heads, things like that?
I never had a problem with the cross-country run. We didn't call it back then. It was the end of practice run, and I have to brag because I'm super competitive. Yeah, I was super competitive, and I never let anybody beat me on that last 2-minute or 5-minute run. the whole season. So got to brag on that. But no,
For 15-minute run.
I'm telling you, what sticks out with me in practice, my senior year, it was super dry for a while. And that's when Marty had to strip down. He got the fire ants all over his equipment. and that could have been the junior year too. I might be getting that mixed up. But, we played our varsity games on Saturday afternoon, no lights, and Coach had us out there. And that fall, sometime in there, it was super wet. I do remember that. We had the worst mosquitoes you could ever imagine. And we were out there trying to run underneath the old Pony League football field with lights on. And God's honest truth, you could not take a breath without getting a mouthful of mosquitoes and choking. I remember that on practices. Plenty of raspberries, The equipment is so much better nowadays than what we had back then, the helmets, the whole 9 yards. But, the mouthpieces, to this day, you see the NFL boys in the college football, why wear them? They're always hanging from their face mask. That just bugs me.
Yeah, or stuck in their helmets, right?
Yes.
How many passes did you throw your senior year, Mark? Do you remember?
No, but what sticks out there on me, Coach McCord, he changed the playbook about every week depending on who we was playing. I believe it was Bill Metz, wasn't that the coach of Hicksville, our very first game? Okay. And Coach was right. We had no business lining up against that team, the Vanderstelth boy. They had two backs, and I'll tell you what, they were fast. And they ran the hook and ladder play on us and made us look like some real jokes. But they did call off the dogs on us. But I do remember the Fairview game, and Fairview was strong that year, and he says, Mark, we're going to go out with a shotgun. And I think I threw the ball, I might be wrong here, I think I threw the ball 40 times that game. And we hardly threw the ball at all that year. We would do it maybe 10, 12 times a game, But Mike Dockery, we was back to a class reunion here just last year. Mike come up to me, and Mark, he says, I got to tell you this, and I think you broke 3 fingers of my hands that senior year, because I did. I probably threw the ball too hard, and maybe that's why you dropped it.
John Elway had nothing on you.
I could sling it pretty hard.
Guys, tell me about you guys being kind of pioneers, being in on the ground floor of this thing. How did it feel for you guys? What were the emotions in '86 when these guys made it to Columbus to play for a state title? There had to be quite a sense of pride for you guys.
Oh, yeah, after I was at the Mogador game, and I can remember that when Chris Schlachter kicked the field goal and all. But that cold, clear night, there's rolls of toilet paper flying everywhere. But I think I lost my voice for about 2 weeks after that game. And then making it to state in Denny's year, we was up against a parochial school, Springfield Catholic down there, and I don't know how many pounds each position we was outweighed by and everything like that, but little Ayersville should have won that game. That wasn't my great. I'd say Mogador was my greatest game I've ever seen the Pilots play.
How about you, Chuck?
Mine had to be when we were at state, because that did 2 things for me. First and foremost, I was never so proud of Ayersville's community, because, playing Newark Catholic in the state championship, getting beat 28-27, and I guarantee you, we had 4 times the amount of fans there. And this was, everybody in the GMC was there rooting us on than what Newark Catholic had. And the second thing that I was very proud of is that game started our Ayersville Football Alumni Association, which is something that myself, Mike Dockery, and Tony Dockery all got together to do. And we ended up, golf outings, ended up starting coaches' scholarship fund, kind of phased out, and then Steve Dietrich came in and really got the scholarship running in that. And it was all this comes back to what he taught us when we played. You know, you play as hard as you can, as long as you can, as long as you're here. And then when you leave, you go to college, go into General Motors, or you go work somewhere in that. But always try to give a little bit of yourself back, which was what Don was talking about, what Jonathon was talking about, where you always try to give something back, which is what we tried to do through the Football Association. Now Ryan Hageman's taken it over and done a fantastic job with it. But it's just getting everybody back. As Coach said, talk about horror stories. You had asked earlier about, some of the horror stories, or not really horror stories, the stories that we make up and they get bigger and bigger and bigger the older you get. I remember my senior year. I have no idea where this man came up with this. But he would come out with, you remember the old mayonnaise jars that they'd have for the cafeteria? Well, he came out one practice, slammed this jug down on our water bottles, and we had the old, it looks like a farmer's spray gun now for our water jugs, and slams down this thing of salt tablets. And he says, and this is before Gatorade. We always called it McCord-Aid. And you'd have to take a handful of these salt tablets, eat these salt tablets, drink as much water as you could, and then go practice. That's what we did back then. We didn't know any better.
True.
But, by doing that, Coach evolved, the program evolved, Denny and them played at state. There's not a lot of programs. There's only, back then, there was 3 state champions, and that was it. There wasn't a lot of programs got a chance to go. Coach and Coach Ondrus, who I never had the fun of playing for, I played for Coach King, they got that chance. They got them there. Mark and I look at it as, we were the foundation, and these guys, blossomed from there. And I can't be prouder of the way the program ran.
Outstanding, guys. Appreciate your insight so much.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Chuck.
D&M2 Tires and Service is an auto repair shop and tire dealer serving Delta and the surrounding communities. They offer a variety of automotive repair and tire services to keep your vehicle rolling. In everything we do, our team is committed to providing the best workmanship and customer experience possible. Visit them at 6946 Road 5 in Delta during business hours of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturdays. Or browse their catalog at dm2tire.com.
High school seniors, uncertain that college is right for you? Concerned about the cost of higher education? At the Gherkin Companies, we offer rewarding livelihoods even without a degree. That's a good living straight out of high school with no tuition debt. Starting pay between recent college grads and those with high school diplomas is closer than you might think. So if you enjoy teamwork, working outdoors, and being part of something meaningful, consider your options at gherkincompanies.com/careers.
Welcome back to our Week 6 KK Collision Football Show, celebrating 50 years of Ayersville football, joined out by the 80s generation here, the 1980s guys, Denny Martin, Brad Schlachter, David Delano, and Rob Giesige joining us. Now, thank you guys so much for stopping out tonight. We appreciate it. Go ahead, Coach Strock.
No, I'm in awe here, man.
Well, I know you're sitting by your idol here.
I am. I've talked about it enough on the podcast. Denny's heard all the stories, but as I said, I had a couple cousins on that 86 team, Don and Marv Andrews. I think Donald was a sophomore. I think Marv was a senior. So I was just a little snot-nosed 10-year-old from Liberty Center, and I got to go with my aunt and uncle to all of the games. I think we started at Loose Field in the Point against Woodmore is where it started, and I just couldn't wait during school that whole week to go to the Ayersville game on Friday night, and then all the way down to the Horseshoe. And I remember it well, and my first football idol was number 12, Denny Martin. And I'd tell my buddies about it at school, and they're like, who the hell's Denny Martin, And I remember that. I tried to emulate him on the playground, tried to do the things he did. It even runs deeper than I've said on the podcast and stuff. I mean,
could have you even ran 88 yards back in your day?
I couldn't tonight, I'll tell you that. But I tried to, and then not just Denny, but I just remember, Lynn's brother Andy, who I've gotten to spend a lot of quality time with over the years, and Phil Gurley, and like I said, my cousins, and Chris Schlachter. I remember all those guys, and it just inspired me, to want to grow up and be a football player, and it really started with that 86 Ayersville team, man. And so this is real special to me. And then, like I said, Coach McCord, just a consummate gentleman as a young coach growing up. So I'm just tickled to death to be part of this tonight.
Yeah. Denny and Rob were both part of the 86 state runner-up team. Brad, what year did you graduate?
Graduated 85, played
85, okay. And David?
89.
89, okay. What was it like for you guys? Because, Brad, you kind of started after the guys that we just talked to in the beginning. Did you have some idols or people that you looked up to from those early 70s teams? Do you remember those days?
Temple. I remember seeing him walk through the hallway. He was real he lifted weights all the time. Still, this day, I remember Dave Temple.
Yeah.
He was a running back for us, and he was lifted a lot of weights.
Go ahead, the rest of you. Did you have some guys that you looked up to when you were youngsters?
I think the coaches even made us think of Dave Temple. I mean, every time they would say, Dave Temple, he'd run 100 yards every time he touched the ball. Well, Dave Temple had his lineman out there running in the field to help him block that. And I'm like, what the frick, Dave Temple? So before we knew it, it was Dave Temple.
That's true.
Was Dave Temple still around in your day, Mr. Delano?
No, but he talks about it.
He's still talking.
You'd run a practice play, and you'd go 15 yards, and he'd say, Dave Temple would run all the way to the end zone. Every time.
I think
it's true, it's true.
I think our kindergarten, Rob and I's year of kindergarten was the year that it started, 74, 75 we were in kindergarten. So, and for the first, 7 or 8 years, they played at 2 o'clock on Saturdays. During the day, they didn't have lights, so we'd be out there early on Saturday to watch, whether it was Dave Temple in the late 70s, and Jimmy Hunt, and so many great names that there were. And so we're starting at kindergarten up through elementary, and then we get into middle school, and you're playing out at recess all the time and smearing everybody, and it was just a great time to. It's almost like we grew with the program, because we started in kindergarten the same year that they started the actual program, and as the team developed every year, we were getting older, and we could see what they were doing out there, and it was just really neat to see.
They had better games behind the bleachers.
Oh, yeah. Was football number one for you guys once football started in the 70s, or were there other sports that were more important to you, or was it football?
Football was it for me.
Yeah.
For sure.
Basketball was, like you said, basketball was what you did at Ayersville before football started. But definitely football was, I think, all of our love anyway.
Talk about what you remember as far as the community support goes, because these guys alluded to it a little bit. I just remember Ayersville being bananas and those stands being full, and it was crazy. Lynn and I talk about this on Friday nights often. You see it sometimes, over here you see it from time to time, but you just don't see it with live streaming and all the different sources out there now. You just don't see it like you used to, 5 deep, all the way around the field and things like that. Talk about what you remember about the Ayersville community.
They always followed us. I had 3 boys go through the program after coach, and I explained to them, I said, you guys don't understand how it used to be. Like you said, they'd be 3, 4 deep all the way around that fence, stands full. There wasn't anywhere to be. It was phenomenal.
It was low-key, though, in the locker room. I think the whole team, you guys set the tone. I don't know. It just seemed really low-key when we were going to state. It wasn't it was a big deal, but it wasn't made public, I guess. The community was big, right, Bill? You'd see signs and they'd follow everywhere, but we didn't make it too much. I don't know, it wasn't big. Just took care of business.
Yeah, I just got all the football tapes converted to DVDs. So I watched all the games and all the people. When they said last one turned the lights out in Ayersville, there was nobody. If you wanted to go steal some things at some houses, go to Ayersville on a Friday night because everybody's out. They're gone.
Was there when you guys are a little bit younger than Brad, but you were playing when he was playing, but was there a win in the early 80s that really juvenated you guys to kind of start that run that you started in 85 through 94?
I would say the Fairview game our freshman year, and Denny made a big hit and caused a fumble that game. Us beating Fairview for the first time, I think that then was the stepping stone that, we finally beat them. And that was a big, in my mind, was a big event there.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. That number one in our book anyway, just how that never beating Fairview before and then getting to see that senior class because they'd gotten beat 3 years in a row and then to see how happy they were that they were finally able to beat them. And we were freshmen. It was pretty neat.
And you had Macomb, who won state in 83. Holgate was right there in 84. Edgerton, 83, went to the playoffs. Is that right? Somewhere in there, 82, 83. You were playing some pretty good juggernauts back in the day when only 4 got into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that when we started that Macomb series as our very first non-conference game, I think for how many years straight, whoever won that game made the playoffs. And it was always a slugfest, a lot of great athletes on both sides, and sometimes they made more plays than we did, sometimes we made more plays than they did, and it was just a great battle every game. And that Jerry Mapes, when we saw him, probably one of the best athletes we've seen.
Yeah.
Talk about practice a little bit, guys, what you remember from practice. Some of those practices back in the 80s, they were pretty nasty. Did you do a lot of hitting? Was it more fundamentals? Denny, as a quarterback, did you have to get into the hamburger drills and things, or did coach kind of hold you out?
I'll start off by saying my coach on both sides of the ball was that guy right there, Mr. Bill Ondrus. So he ran a great practice, and it didn't matter if you were a quarterback. You had to participate in all those drills. Whether I liked it or not, I had to participate in all those drills. And Phil Gurley, I think my head still rings because I always had to match up with Phil Gurley, and he had to give me at least 15 concussions every year. Yeah, right. But no, it's being able to play for Coach Ondrus on both sides, as defensive back and then as quarterback. Which my junior and senior year, I just played quarterback and returned punts. I didn't play much defense, but just being with him and how he taught everybody the fundamentals, and you had fun, but you knew he was coaching you up, and at the end of the day, he loved you, but he made sure you worked hard, and it was just a great time.
Guys, any recollections from practice?
It was very regimented. We had groups. You went through practice, and you got done, you ran. We were out there at 8 o'clock at night. We practiced hard, we practiced intense, and it was very regimented.
Do you remember anything?
I remember getting my butt kicked by Schlachter because he was in my defensive group. Had so many concussions now, Tori, they call me Jellyhead.
Jellyhead.
Anybody sees, they call me Jellyhead. Had a couple concussions, junior year, maybe one or two. Senior year that you just kind of don't talk about.
Did they ever put you in protocol for the concussion protocol?
Yes, boats were sailing one day in practice. But what I do remember most about Coach was always going to be the technician on how to do your blocking and where your head should be, and then in practices were crappy because they made you work. But what I do like about it is the assistant coaches, Mr. Ondrus, he is going to be the guy that is going to make it fun. So we may look over, we're running plays, look over, Mr. Ondrus has a dude on the ground just wrenching the heck out of him because he mouthed off to him. So he's down on the ground beating somebody's butt. And then we go back to practice, and it was constant every day. Somebody is getting their butt beat by Coach Ondrus. Until the day we moved his Chevy Love pickup, about 10 of us, moved it so he didn't know where it was when we come out of the locker room. Oh my gosh, and we pay for that. We didn't do that again.
It's because I locked it. I learned my lesson.
What was the punishment for that? Can you divulge?
I can't remember how many fence busters that was, but yeah, that was cross country's constant.
Was it worth it?
That was worth it. There's some things that are, but that was worth it.
Rob was one of the very few people that loved the cross countries.
Yeah.
Kind of like Mark was talking. He was normally first, and he would win every time, and he wanted more. One cross country was never enough.
He always wanted more.
Yeah, always wanted more. Yep.
You can't make me do it. You'll never beat me, Coach. His brother was worse. Same way.
Well, talking about his injuries, my brother was down last week and we were talking about this. He said, Rob Giesige, we were watching a college football game. There was a guy laying on the field. He said, get him off the field. He said he's just like Rob Giesige back in the day. Oh, he's just laying there. Get him off the field.
What do you guys, and I know not everybody could be here tonight, but like I said, I've got to know Andy Grohl pretty well over the years. And what do you guys remember about Andy Grohl? Because he'll be watching this. Anything stand out to you about Andy Grohl as a player?
Team captain. Mm-hmm. He was our team captain. We all voted every year before the two-a-days started. And he was our team captain for the year, and he was a great leader, great athlete. Like any sport, he was probably one of our better athletes in every sport.
What made him a great leader, Denny?
Flat feet.
Maybe not so much vocal, but watching what he did, how he did the drills, how he played the games, always 100%, always working hard. That's just who you wanted to follow.
Love it.
Who was the baddest dude on the 86 team, or maybe even your freshman to junior years? Same question for you guys. Who was the baddest dude that you had to go up against?
Todd Diamond.
I didn't play against him.
Oh, my God.
I would say Brian Allen and Steve Theroff. Steve Theroff laid so many people out.
Yeah.
They throw penalties on him. It was a legal hit. They throw the flag.
Yeah, Steve Theroff.
Steve Theroff could hit. Brian Allen just wanted to run you over instead of sidestepping you.
I'd say Robert Gurley was right up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's people that you knew were beasts, but then there were people you were scared of. So Diamond, absolutely scared of. I don't even want to be 50 feet from that guy. But some of the other ones you could tolerate, but yeah, not Diamond. No, I'm not.
Chuck and Mark, I forgot to ask you that question. Who was the baddest dude back in your day?
I'll tell you, when we first started out, form tackle, And this I didn't appreciate, Coach, I'm telling you. You had to run half to 2/3 speed with the football and let a guy just absolutely treat you. It's probably hard to sit over Martin Snyder. He put me in another world. He was just solid. He was just a solid kid from top to bottom.
But Mark, wasn't it supposed to just be a form tackle?
No, you got drove to the ground. And you could not juke or die. You had to be in motion right there, just take it. And I know they don't do that crap.
No, you go to jail if you do that now. Yeah, coaches get fired every day for that.
God, I hated that drill. And Mark left one thing out. You had to have ball in one hand, your other hand had to be on top of your helmet, and hit you here. Right. And me, of course, I couldn't do anything with this, so I decided on one time I had to go against Dan Diamond, top over brother. The other guy, I completely agree with you, Rob. I want to be in the other helmet. I do not want to go up against Dan Diamond. I got to go up against him, and I'm thinking, oh, God. He is going to drill me into the ground and be dead, just put me casket there now. So what do I do? Coach is standing there, come on, Florence, take it! Just as Dan got to me, I sprinted. Probably the fastest I've ever ran in my life. I was known for the 10-minute 40 back when I played. So what's he do? Shot me back in line. Oh God, I'm really going to get hit now. I had to go against Dan Diamond. Dan lays me out, drives me into the ground and everything. I am sucking every bit of grass I can to try to get air back in my lungs. Shot me back in line and thinking, oh crap. He puts Mark Bogle up against me. Now Mark Bogle was the type of player that could run full speed with his face mask that far off the ground. Well, I'm thinking, I'm not going to sprint past you, I'm just going to take it. I think he broke 3 ribs when he hit me. Oh my God. Ondrus back here, the typical side, but I tell you what, I got lit up by those two that game. I didn't want to come back.
I want to ask you about the '86 season. And Dave, were you a freshman? Sophomore. Going into that year, you'd never been to the playoffs. You just won the GMC. Did you guys think you had a chance to have a special season? And you had a brother on that team, Brad. I mean, and you had these guys, as underclassmen when you played. Did you foresee what was going to happen that year?
Okay,
I'll go.
Go ahead, Brad.
I picked this because we lost 4 great guys. We lost Burns, who was our center, who was very strong. We lost Allen, who was a running back, would spell Denny at quarterback sometimes, and linebacker. And we had Theroff, who was linebacker, tailback, and Bobby Freilich, who was a great fullback and awesome nose guard. So I picked this to go 7-3 when we're writing down our goals, maybe win the GMC.
Who did you have beating you?
Probably Edgerton, maybe Fairview, and then Macomb. So then I'm thinking our first day, we get our linemen, Mr. Finn and Mr. Bowles, get in a fight right in the locker room. We're breaking it up, and I said, this is first day of practice. I said, what the heck is this crap show? And I don't know, but I think it brought us closer together somehow. It was almost like that fight made everybody focus then. It was unbelievable. You went from...
They were tight. That senior group was very, very close.
Yeah.
I think. And I think they still are today.
Yeah.
Denny, what did you think your record would be that year?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up at some point. Really just what Rob said there. I mean, our junior year, having guys like Bob Freilich, Steve Theroff, Brian Allen, Eric Guilford, I mean, those guys set great examples and were able to be the senior class that got the first GMC championship. And seeing what they did and just kind of following their, how they practiced and then we came to our senior year, and we had 16, 17 of us, and there was a lot of us, and a lot of us played as juniors, and so we had a little bit of playing experience, but we knew Macomb, we knew everybody was going to be tough. There really wasn't, in the GMC, there wasn't going to be a gimme win, and so we had to bring it every night. And those first two, Macomb and Fairview, coming out of there 2-0, I think that's when we thought, okay, we have a chance here to win some more. And then the last three was Wayne Trace, Tenora, and Edgerton, and we knew those were going to be really tough. So it was. I don't think we knew that early on that we could have run the table 10-0 and get into the playoffs. As a matter of fact, we never really talked about the playoffs. I never heard of the Harbin system at all until we found out we made the playoffs. It was just take every game one at a time, prepare and win that game and move on.
Brad, did you foresee that class doing what they did when they were?
Honestly, no, they were good, but you couldn't predict that. Macomb was so good. Jerry Mapes was just phenomenal. They performed quite a feat.
David, as a young guy on that team, what was the makeup of them and what made them so special in your mind? And
I mean, like I said, the senior class to us, my freshman year, you're right, I was scared of Brian Allen and Steve Thiroff. I thought they were going to kill me every day because I had to be in linebacker.
Yeah.
And they were tough. They were some badass dudes. And but I think that started it. Like everybody says, 85, we won it. And then these guys, I vaguely remember that fight, whatever it was. But they were so close. That 87 graduating class was so close. And we knew. You had your job to do, and you just did it. You just got in line and you did it. I don't know, it's just the way it was, but they were a close group, and I would say all of them were a great group of leaders. I can't think of one that wasn't, honestly.
were you in awe getting into the playoffs? Was it, you never been there, you guys mentioned you never even thought about it. Was it intimidating at all for you guys once you got into the playoffs?
I don't think we really knew what to expect, because after beating Edgerton, it was such a relief to beat those guys, because they had a bunch of studs on that team that year. Running backs, quarterback was decent, Flagel,
Radaball.
Yeah, Davis, the tight end.
Big Mogul.
He was a monster. But once we got there, we didn't know what to expect, because you're playing these teams year in and year out, and now you're playing somebody like Woodmore.
You know where they were from.
Woodmore, what are they? You didn't really have a clue. So you couldn't even really be scared of anybody. You didn't know. Coach always said, put their doggone pants on one leg at a time, just like you do. And it was just amazing how we just kind of ran through the first couple games.
And then you run into Mogador, traditional power. You had some interceptions, Denny.
I think that game probably was my worst game that I played in. It shouldn't have been as close as it was. I gave him two free touchdowns. As a matter of fact, your cousin kind of got my head screwed on right after that. After that,
it was pretty brutal there.
After that second one, it happened in the third.
I had to laugh.
We still laugh about it too. After that second interception, I threw for a touchdown, and I'm pouting, walking off the sideline. I'm pissed. I'm mad, and there's Marv on the sideline. And Marv is, again, another one of those leaders that wasn't real vocal, but he played a ferocious game at nose guard, and you just followed his example of how he led by how he played. But boy, he came up and grabbed me by the face mask. It's right after the kick extra point, so I was walking off and just shaking my head and just walking off real slow, and he came up and grabbed onto my face mask, and he says, "You better get your head out of your butt." He actually said something different. "You better get your head out of your butt, because we got another quarter to go, and you just need to show up." And I'm like, "Marv, I don't even remember what I said, but he slapped me upside the head a couple times and basically said, "You need to get your head screwed on right." And he was totally right. And Then I got a little good lashing from Coach Ondrus.
Nice drive down the field.
And we had that final drive down the field, had a couple completions to Phil Gurley to get us into field goal range so Chris could get that last second field goal there, but dang, it should have never came down to that. I just
Did you think that the game was over after the fourth down stop at the goal line? Or did you guys still have some hope, if you remember your mindset?
I think we still had hope because we knew we should get the ball because they were punting, because they took the safety, so they were going to punt. They weren't going to get a long kickoff. So we thought we'd get the ball maybe around midfield, and Andy, your brother, took the kick, and I think he returned it maybe 15, 20 yards, got it to midfield. And so really we only needed to go maybe 30 yards or so to get in field goal range, and almost hit Andy in the corner of the end zone. It got tipped, would have had a touchdown to Andy there in the corner. Got tipped right there at the end, but then was able to give Phil a pass completion to get it down to about the 15-yard line or something like that, so Chris could come in and kick that field goal.
Square toe.
Did that?
Square toe.
You had to get that shoe from Dave Greer, right? Is that? Yeah, right.
Yes.
You played on turf for the first time.
I remember that Dave Greer went to a kicking camp in Toledo back when he played, and his dad had a turf, because Toledo had turf, so his dad got a special turf kicking shoe, square toe, the old toe basher. And I said, I'm going to call him up and see if he still has that shoe around. And his mom dug through the attic, and they found that shoe, and it just happened to fit Chris. That's the rest is history. I mean, it's just how lucky we were, I guess, but he still had that kicking shoe.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I don't know, Tori, if you remember being a young pup, but if you see in the Mogador game, Chris, he goes in for a touchdown, and then they run the shoe out on the field to him. He's trying to change shoes as the play clock is going. Yeah. He's got to hurry up, get it tied up around the shin and everything, and then kicks it. I don't know how much time we actually have by the time all that's done, but that, as I'm watching that now, that's a little nerve-wracking as he's got to put that shoe on and tie it all up like that.
Under pressure.
Yeah.
Did you think he was going to make it? Because I don't know that he kicked any field goals that year, did he, the whole year?
Other than extra points, I don't remember a field goal, maybe one.
I think everything was happening so fast. I didn't really think about it.
When he kicked it, I did. I could sometimes when you feel it kicks out of your hand, you know whether he hit it good and solid. And I knew he hit it good and solid, and as long as it was straight. And it was.
Brad, where was your mind at when he was kicking that?
At the end of that game, though, they stopped us on a fourth down score, so the ball's on about the 1 yard line. They run 2 plays. We put our goal line defense in. We take timeout. On the third down, they took a safety, which saved us a timeout. Yeah. So they took a safety and they kicked us, so we had to get field position. And I still don't know why he did that, but I guess whatever. But it saved us a timeout, which we were able to use. Mark get close enough to kick a field goal. And Beefield tell you a lot of Mogador people left the game. Right?
Yeah, my dad stopped at a McDonald's, and they go, "Oh, we're so sorry, you guys lost," and they go, "No, we won." And they're like, "What?"
That's true.
Yeah, it was like, wow, no way. They didn't believe them. And they turned on the radio, and they lost.
Denny, I want you to touch on your 88-yard run at State. Take me through that play and what you remember when you ran about 500 yards.
So, couple things on that. So, the play was a pro right, 16 cross trap, waggle right. And so it was a fake to 2 backs crossing in the backfield, and then I'd roll out in a waggle out to the right-hand side. And typically, my first option was always to hit Steve Dietrich out of the backfield, because he could usually run it 20, 30, 40 yards down the field. Or there was a wider receiver out that would do a curl, and for some reason, and actually it kind of set up in the Mogador game. So, like I said, I had a horrible game that game, and we were preparing for Newark Catholic in practice and watching film, and 2 nights that week, I took the Mogador game film home to watch it at home because I wanted to see what was I not seeing to throw these interceptions, because I can't do that in the state final. We'll have no shot. So I remember my dad and I getting up early in the morning before school and watching a couple things that I did, and during that, one of the plays we ran was a waggle, and as I'm rolling out to the right, everybody flows this way, and we stopped it, and we looked, and the whole left side, there was nobody over there. And so I kind of had that in my mind when I was rolling out, and I just made a quick look. Steve was open. I could have thrown it to Steve, but I just looked, and there was nobody over there. So I just took off running, thinking maybe I'd get 15, 20 yards. But the greatest thing about that run is not necessarily me running 150 yards. It's all my linemen that were running just as far as I was. John Finn, Tim Bull. I had to stiff arm Tim Bowles out of the way to keep up at the 50 because he was going to run me over. But you had John Finn, Tim Bowles. Mike Wilson ran all the way down to the 5-yard line. He was going to get another block if I needed it. It's just those guys that Andy was down there about midfield making blocks. I mean, that's what allowed me to be able to do. I mean, if they don't do their job, then I can't do that. And they did their job to perfection. And yeah, it took maybe a little longer to get there, but that's kind of where the holes were. And I was gassed when I got down there to the end, though. I was definitely gassed. Cross countries did not prepare me for that.
The only other thing I want to ask is talk about how Ayersville football, being a member of Coach McCord's program, kind of helped set you up for life in what you did after high school.
It taught you a lot of discipline, respect. One thing, I've got 3 boys that played at Ayersville, and they sensed the love and respect from me through, they call him Coach. I talk about Coach, they know who it is. He's been to their graduations or weddings. It was a great experience. And one other thing I always remember about football is the last week of practice, there's a tradition that went on every year. We can't talk about, but it was a great tradition, and we look forward to it every year.
I just say the same. I mean, so much respect for all the coaches. We had phenomenal coaches. Just amazing time. Great leaders. From when I was a kid, I was telling Mark earlier, I remember when they played on Saturdays, my dad would take me down there, and it was cool just to see those guys. Man, that's what you wanted to be. And in 8th grade is when I really noticed it. I was telling him on the way here, it was a Holgate game, and we were in 8th grade, and we got to stand on the sidelines. And that was the coolest thing. That's when it really sunk into me that this is important.
I think the thing you take away is family. I mean, he would always be like this. When we come together like this, that's when we know you have something. And that's what I coached to my junior high when I coached with them. I said, until we have good chemistry, until we become a big family, we'll be fine. But until we can do that, we're going to have a rough road. So that was always my big thing. Perfect. Denny?
There's a couple coaches that aren't here that were just phenomenal coaches too. Norm Beck, gosh, love Norm Beck. and Bob Luderman was one. Mike Anderson was a coach, and then he also was our trainer. He taped all of our ankles. He taped more ankles than probably a regular doctor did. But he, just the leadership that those coaches showed. I think they said it before, you'd try to run through a brick wall with them. And you just always fighting, the world's not sometimes the greatest place in the world, or not the greatest place to be in, but you know what, you got to keep fighting, and things will look up. You just got to keep working hard. And a lot of that was instilled by that man right over there.
Outstanding. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. What do you think of that Indians sweatshirt he's got on there, Strat?
It's vintage.
Oh, yeah.
It's vintage. It doesn't say Guardians, does it?
The Swanton Welding Company proudly supports our local student athletes and coaches. We're committed to being your local steel fabrication company in Northwest Ohio and building projects across the country. For job opportunities at the Swanton Welding Company, visit www.swantonweld.com or visit them at 407 Zider Way in Swanton. K. Kern Painting is a proud sponsor of Northwest Ohio Athletics. K. Kern Painting was formed in 1998 by Kinsey Kern in Toledo and now has a footprint in Toledo, Cleveland, and Michigan, and has road crews traveling throughout the United States. For a free estimate or job opportunities with K. Kern Painting, visit their website at kkernpainting.com or call 419-351-1250 or stop by their Toledo location at 211 North Reynolds Road. Welcome back to our Week 6 KK Collision Football Show, finishing up our Ayersville's 50-year reunion here tonight. We got some 90s guys, 2000s, if my memory serves right. 03. Adam Fritz, Rafael Manriquez, Matt Ripke, Adam Baker, Ryan Shreve, Ryan Hageman. I'm seeing some of these faces for the first time since my days at Ayersville here, so testing my memory, Coach Strott.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I remember a lot of those names. Coach Ripke, I want to start with you because when I think of Matt Ripke in modern times, I think all hoops. I think basketball. Talk about what it meant to be a member of the Ayersville football program for you and some of your best memories.
For me, it's, watching these guys that have been up here, those were my, you talk about Denny Martin being your hero, that was my hero growing up too, and watching those guys play on Friday nights, and it was a phenomenal experience. And very thankful that my parents always took me to the game. I wasn't allowed to play on the games behind the stadium because if I didn't know the score at halftime and the final score, I didn't go the next week. So I had to pay attention to watch the games, and again, those guys were phenomenal to watch. It was fantastic.
What year did you graduate, Coach?
Graduated in 95.
Class of 95.
Rest of you, positions you played, years you played. So we get it right here.
Yeah, my senior year was the 99 season, and I was a defensive end and a guard.
My senior year was 03, so 02 season. I played with Adam as a freshman in 99. I was a running back and defensive back.
I played Adam Baker. I played tackle, offense and defense, and my graduating year was 04.
Ryan Shreve. I graduated in 01, so 2000 was my last year, last football year, and I played, I guess, a little bit of everything, but mainly I was split end / tight end and a defensive back with a little bit of quarterback thrown in there when need be, I guess.
My name's Ryan Hageman. I graduated in 04, and I played guard and linebacker.
Outstanding. What was Ayersville football, now that you're graduated and you're adults, what has Ayersville football shaped you, meant to you guys, for each of you?
Yeah, I mean, it's all, I think there was a big sign that said tradition. I think that was what you usually walked out to, so that's what it meant. It wasn't you, it was everyone that was there before you and everyone that would come after you, and, just the camaraderie and the being together and the teamwork and everything that it took to, work together, and you won, so.
Coach McCord always talked about those guys that laid the foundation, and you get to hear them speak tonight. And I know, graduating in 94, we were here 10 in a row of winning the conference, and that was one thing that you never wanted to let the group ahead. The group that came before you never wanted to let them down. You always, I graduated, I wore number 83, and I knew Kyle Brown wore 83, so damn it, if Kyle Brown was I can do this, But Kyle Brown didn't enjoy running cross countries, but he got them done, so I can get them done, It was always about the guys that came before you and maintaining and carrying on that tradition.
Yeah, you always felt like you were part of something way bigger than just you. You know, you just felt like, God, this is a big deal. And it was a big deal, but it was just really cool to be a part of.
Yeah, they go to that tradition side of things. One of my favorite things, when we would watch film Thursdays, we would watch a little opponent film. Every now and again, Coach would just get into the cabinet and pull out an old film. We were playing Edgerton that week or whoever, and he'd go, hey, we're going to watch 86. And he'd put in the tape and just let it run. And, you know, we would watch, and we would get to see all these guys that over the years, you know, and watch this game. And that was that sense of, again, this is bigger than us right now. It's everything from before. And, you know, I think that was always a big part of that tradition, camaraderie.
Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I know when we were playing, remember the Titans came out, and we could sense what Coach was trying to teach us. We had a motto of back-to-back. We'd even stand back-to-back, you know, in practice to feel like you're one group coming together. So it was always very special.
And you got to become head coach later on. How much did your football career and Coach McCord shape you as your couple years as a head coach?
A lot. You know, the love for the game, for everybody who's there. You know, I always felt bad for the kids that didn't play football, you know, because I always felt like they were missing something out. You know, you have that experience with your friends, you know, you're together, you're working together. Coach is my position coach, so we would always go off, you know, to over by the chutes or go somewhere else, you know, and to have those experiences really meant a lot.
You know, when I think of Ayersville football, to me, they're a top 10 program in this part of the state of Ohio as far as a model of consistency. What have been the keys? I think part of it's the foundation Coach McCord laid, and then the continuity with him there for all those years and the coaching staff. But as you guys see it as alumnus of the program, what are the keys to that tradition and continuity? Because Ayersville is good every year. What's the key? I mean, you talked about it being bigger than, you know, just not wanting to be the guy that dropped the torch or the baton when it was handed to you. It's not like that everywhere. What makes Ayersville different? Why is it so special?
You know, it sounds simplistic, but all his coach ever preached was just do your job. You know, do your job. If you do your job, the rest will take care of itself as long as everybody's doing their job. And, you know, you can split the atom and make it hard as you want, but I think it just comes down to doing your job. And that's really no different than what we do in our careers now. You know, do your job and you will have success. And I think we just, like you said, start with a good foundation and we just kind of build on it. So.
I can remember, I think this is what makes Ayersville really a special place is we are a K-12 building. And so I can remember sitting in the hallways as a kindergartner watching the football guys on Fridays wearing their jerseys come walking by, or being in the cafeteria and seeing guys come by in their jerseys, and I'm like, man, I want to be that guy. And we would go to games and we would see the guys on the field and play, and I want to be like them. And we got that from the time we were 5 years old. And it was just something that, again, you know, we would work towards. And even as a group, you know, our classmates on the playground, that's what we would work, you know, and work towards, and just, again, try to emulate a little bit. And I think that was it made just that special, it made Ayersville special for us, seeing that from the time we're at a very young age to build on that.
That's a great point, the K-12 thing.
Anything else you other four want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up right down from the school, so my Fridays were come home from school, you know, in the fall, we get together with my friends, we play football, we walk down to the school at 6, watch the game, probably more or less play behind the stadium. But yeah, I had to make sure I knew what the score was too. But just that camaraderie with your teammates, and like Raph said, you're growing up with these kids, and you stick together, and that's what you do. You go play football. So.
I think the fact too that he ran the same defense and offense for basically 30 years. Like, you knew that you're gonna run the trap, you're gonna run the toss sweep, you're gonna run ISO, you're gonna run 16-17 cross trap, run the waggle, which I guess now listening to Denny talk about his run, I'm guessing that's when the waggle became a run first. as a tight end, I didn't like it. Mike Roll was a quarterback, and Waggles would run first, and I guess that's all Denny's fault. I would really throw it to the damn tight end.
Sounds like you still need a hug.
Yeah, Coach Ondrus is always good for a hug. It's the same basic stuff, and it's fundamentals. It doesn't. And the same, you talk about basketball, I carry the same thing over our basketball program. It's all about fundamentals. It's about being fundamentally sound in what you do and having continuity from year in and year out. I think that's what builds a successful program.
That's a great point.
And I'll say my class, I feel was lucky because we had a huge senior class to kind of learn the ropes, I guess, so to speak, be kind about it. But that toughened you up, like having all those seniors, something to look up to, you wanted to be those people, and they were teaching you, kind of how to make that stuff. Because I know when I was a freshman, I think they went 10-0 that year, and we're awesome, but just wanting to strive for that and learn from all those guys and be that. So that was a big thing too, I feel, because they were, at least to me, they were the stepping stone, I guess, so to speak.
One thing that I should have asked all the other guys, I like to ask this question. Talk about your families a little bit as supporters of yours. Did they coddle you, Coach Ripke, when you came home after a tough day at practice and tell you, they were going to talk to Coach McCord? And
Not a chance. I can tell you the answer to that one.
So my dad was a year older than the seniors, so he didn't play. The seniors couldn't play that year, so he never played football, but he loved going to the games. Yeah, no, you can get no sympathy when you come home. And if anything happened at school, they knew about it before you got home, so you better own up to it. No, absolutely not.
Anybody else talk about your parents?
Yeah, my dad actually played for Coach Buckemeyer at Napoleon back in the 70s. And so, legendary coach. And when maybe Coach McCord would get on you a little bit and you'd kind of grumble, he'd say, he sees something in you. If Coach ain't yelling at you, you got bigger problems. So,
That's right.
That was always kind of reality check when you went home thinking you were going to get some coddle. It wasn't happening.
Yeah, if your dad played for Coach Buckemeyer, you didn't have a chance to get coddled. Rafael?
Yeah, I just had a really good support system. My mom and dad, they were always there. They were at every game. They're usually the first people you go and see on the way in real quick, just to thank them. And Dad, we wouldn't really talk a whole lot. It just depends. He'd let me kind of talk a little bit and listen, and then if it was something little, he'd say, "Well, get better," and you'd move on and go to the next thing. But I think just having that support system, and then for each other too. I know Ryan. Some of us were in the same age, but their parents would come over, and again, embed that whole family atmosphere together. Not just mine, but again, we were all kind of together. One of our favorite things, eating team meals together. We would go and eat by class, and so every Thursday night we would go to someone else's house and we would have our meal as a class together. And so that kind of brought that your grade, your class together, and just kind of that family atmosphere.
Awesome.
Anybody else want to chime in?
My grandma taught at the school. My mom got a job in '93, so I always remember going to watch all the games, watching this guy play, Mike Grohl, watching him play, and I had Coach Lanier, Coach McCord, who did what they said to do, because you knew that you would get in a good spot if you did that. So we really idolized those guys, for us. Watching them get to the playoffs, watching them have great success, we really looked up to them. We wanted to make sure Coach wasn't yelling at us. We wanted to make sure that we were doing what we were supposed to do. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, my dad he was actually a basketball coach, so if the coaches were on me, it was my fault. Like that's what it was. Like it's not something where he's going to go tell them how to do their job. It's my fault to do what they tell me to do. So that's how I grew up. So.
Did you guys have a favorite coach on the staff? Was there a certain coach that you just kind of gravitated to that was maybe your favorite that you would admit?
My senior year, we kind of had a transition in coaches. So Beef and Coach O, they kind of moved on, and then we got Coach Rodenberger to come in there and he might as well have been Coach O. I mean, he was kind of crazy.
He is crazy.
But yeah.
Fight him in the hallway instead of on the field.
That's right. You didn't have to worry about getting in a full Nelson or whatever. Yeah.
Anybody else, coaches that stand out?
So I had Coach Ripke as my 8th grade coach, and Coach Ripke beat us into the ground. I mean, it was one of those years, and it was good for us because it wasn't that way the year before. And Coach Ripke beat us in the ground. The whole, run 10 yards or whatever. And if you want to be good, I remember this in 8th grade. He said, if you want to be good, you'll run around that goalpost every time. It was 60 yards down there. And so sure enough, I'd run down the goalpost every time.
And that wasn't because I did.
And no, I know, and that's where it all comes from. And again, when we would get up, we would do that. But I was fortunate enough, we're going to go up to high school. I'm going, man, we're getting rid of Coach Ripke. This is going to be good. Coach Ripke moved right along with us, and I had Coach Ripke for the next 4 years. But no, I mean, it all goes back to his experiences as a player, and we respected Coach, and I had Coach, John came in as my senior year. John was one of my coaches as well, and so it was a lot of that tradition, a lot of former players, guys that you can kind of that were in your shoes as a player, and you respected them because they wanted what's best for you, and they were pushing you because they cared about you. And so we had a lot of good times, again, practice times and those types of things.
Did Coach Ripke's face get as red as Beefy's hat on the football field as it did on the basketball court?
Every now and again.
So I told Coach Ripke this story a year or two ago. We're watching Ayersville play Eden in a basketball game, and I'm with my son's 10 now, and I said, hey, you see that coach for Eden? I said, he was my coach when I played football. And Anthony goes, why is his face so red? And I'm like, because he cares a lot. A lot.
Because he cares a lot.
And that's what we always think when we watch Coach Ripke coach still. We go, man, we've seen that face a bunch of times. We've seen that face.
But I'll say this, I never get to where I am without that guy. I mean, he talked about Coach Bowles being a mentor to him. I remember when I started coaching, moving up to high school, and he said, if you're going to do this, you need to go back and get your teaching degree. So between him and my wife challenged me to go back and finish my degree and get my teaching degree, and then when I got my first job as an AD, the first piece of mail I signed in my office went to him, and I thanked him for being that support behind me and that mentor to me, because, and I know he's done that for countless guys that have been through this program, but it's phenomenal.
Matt, to this day, and I never played for him, coached for him, to this day, Christmas morning, he has thousands of acquaintances. I get a text message from Coach McCord, Merry Christmas to you and your family. And I show my wife every time. I go, he's got a million other things going on. And it's unbelievable. So give me a couple things. We all know Coach McCord's character traits, but give me a couple things that make him really unique, Matt.
Well, I mean, he cares. He cares so much, and he cares so much about other people's kids. I sometimes feel bad for John and his sisters because he devoted so much time to everybody else's kids, and how fortunate I was and my brother was and all these guys to have that kind of person. Organizationally, he taught me so many things that when I finally got my opportunity to be a head coach, man, there's a lot of things I do similar in the basketball realm that Coach McCord did with football as far as organizationally that, it drives me nuts now being an AD and some of these other head coaches and how they do things. I know there's more than one way to skin a cat, but how meticulous he was to details of everything, whether it be inventory, whether it be game planning, whether it be practice planning, I studied the things that he did, and it certainly left a lasting impact on me.
Perfect.
And the assistant coaches talked about, they let him coach as assistants, and that's one thing that I've tried to do too, is let your coaches coach, and don't micromanage. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing as a head coach that I got from him. Let your coaches coach, and I know, having been around some different programs, and I helped out with some different programs since then, that's not always the case. And it can be a difficult situation for guys, but like I said, what he did for me, and there's no way I'm where I'm at right now without him.
Perfect.
Outstanding stuff. I got one more thing for you guys. Baddest dude that you didn't want to go up against in practice during your days. Boy.
And you can say yourself.
Yeah, you can say yourself.
I would say my sophomore year, I mean, that was the 10-0 year. I mean, they had some scary guys on that offensive and defensive line. I mean, you could probably name Trevor Waldron. I mean, you see him at a volleyball games, his daughter, he still scares me.
That's because he wears no sleeves.
He wears no sleeves, he's got the tattoo, yeah. Makes me nervous.
Fritz has had some good lines tonight.
Yeah. He's been good. He's been good.
These guys talked about like your senior hit, your senior hit day, going in there with your arm up and getting drilled. Usually, I was fortunate enough my sophomore year, Ryan's senior year, to get picked twice by the two running backs that were in the group with me, Jared Ensign and Brett Morris. And I got two pretty good licks, but I always saw it as passing of the torch. And that was one of those things where I think that was part of the process. And they probably won't say it that way, but it was a good time to get a good lick on me. Yeah, you always make sure you had your rib pads on those days. So.
He was always running too fast. The only time you got to slow down.
Matt, who was the baddest dude in your era?
Rob's brother, Chad. He was an absolute nut. Absolute freaking nut. I'm telling you what, man, he was crazy. Just keep your distance.
Yeah.
Glad he's on our team.
I will say, when I was much littler, that is the one thing I remember from watching Ayersville football. I remember Chad hit someone, and it was so loud, I literally was like in awe. It was like helmet to helmet in the middle of the field, they just smashed, and I was like, whoa. It was impressive.
Yeah, I think I'd have to reiterate Brett and Jared, because that was my freshman year, and I was coming in at like 150 pounds, playing scout linebacker against these guys that are 210, just big kids. I'm like, man, I can't wait till I get that big. And I maybe gained 10 more pounds.
Baddest dude.
Yes, dude, I was trying to think about that. One of the Waldron brothers was a senior when I was a freshman, and I know a lot of times I had to block against him. He was very similar.
Tyson.
Very similar, yeah, and still a big dude.
He spent a few hours in the weight room.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Thank you guys so much. Thank everybody for stopping out tonight. Coach McCord, thank you. It's been an honor. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.